Your source for everything paranormal. Para-X. The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para-X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Welcome to Stirring the Cauldron. Now, here's your host, Marla Brooks.
Hey, Merry Maid, everybody, and welcome to Stirring the Cauldron, here again on the Para-X Radio Network. The opening song tonight was called How Strange by Midnight Syndicate. And that's appropriate because my guest tonight is James Riggs, who hosts a show here on Para-X on Friday nights at 10 o'clock Eastern called Strange Things Radio, along with his co-host Eric Williams. James has always loved strange worlds of like the paranormal and the supernatural and strange things that can't be explained. And that being the premise of the show itself, the two hosts are kind of, at first glance, a rather strange pairing as well, because James is a Druid and Eric is a born-again Baptist, and so they're truly at opposite ends as far as belief systems are concerned, yet they are the best of friends. So tonight we're going to be talking about their show. We're going to be talking about Druidism and a whole lot more. And if any of you have any questions for James and are here in the Para-X chat room, please send me a private message, because I know that some of you here tonight do listen to his show. So there's a chance to play everything you always wanted to know about James, but were afraid to ask in the middle of his show. So fire away, guys. We're here. Find me, find James. We'll do that. And that being said, James, welcome.
Well, thank you, Marla. It was awesome to be on your show. So, yes, I am James Riggs, and I do host Strange Things Radio. And Eric's my other co-host, and we met almost 16 years ago, and we were both working for a technology company. And we just started, I don't know how you meet people at work and stuff like that. And we started talking. And we just, besides being in technology and being IT geeks and all that stuff, we just found that we had just so much in common, except for the small little area of religion, which sometimes you wonder if that's not the glue that even holds us together, because we literally argue, discuss the differential between the two. I'm a little bit more open-minded, being a Druid and a pagan, than I think he is unfortunately being a Southern Baptist Christian. But the thing is what's I think even interesting is my backstory. I was raised in a Southern Baptist school / church / cult. I know I'm doing the cult. I threw that out there. But that is my. I was started in elementary school. Let's see, I was in the kindergarten. I was at a Catholic school for a couple of years. Then my mom switched me over to a Southern Baptist Christian school from the 2nd grade to the 12th grade. And so I went to. So we had Christian class on Monday. We had chapel on Tuesday. We had Christian class on Wednesday. Plus, then I went to church Wednesday night church. And then again Thursday, Friday, and then Sunday was an all-day affair. Literally, you got up, went to church, Sunday school. After church, we had these luncheons, and then maybe at 2 hours, and you're back to night church. So I was literally in church, either in church or around a Bible 7 days a week so I was roughly 18 years old. Wow. So there's a lot of the Bible I know, which drives Eric nuts because he'll say something and I will literally whip out the Bible and verse of the Bible that I know. Being the King James Version is what they always studied. The only time I read the Bible now is to either defeat Eric, unfortunately, in one of his comments, or to actually look up something for the show, being like maybe the apocalypse or some crazy stuff like that. So, so it's fun. But then we got into, we started talking about, and I've always enjoyed ghosts, and Bigfoot being my absolute favorite. If you listen to my show, I get all crazy about Bigfoot. I remember when I was a kid, we lived about a mile away from the Hillsborough State Park, which is here I lived up in Tampa, Florida, and I would go down there, walk down there, and I would try to find Bigfoot all the time. So and then UFOs and this whole thing. So we were constantly talking about it, and and the shows that would come on the Sci-Fi Channel and all that stuff. Well, then I don't know, about 3 years ago, we had a chance to put a show on. The local AM station here, we met someone we actually met the owner, and she's like, if you guys want to put a show on, you can. And we're like, really? And she goes, yeah, whatever time you want. We're like, what about Friday nights from 11 to 12? She goes, yeah, you can do it. So we're like, cool. So we start doing it, and then then at first she's like, oh, don't worry about the money. Don't worry about the money. And then the money came. Oh, by the way, you have to pay. We're like,
dun, dun, dun.
What? Yeah. And we've been there like 3 months. And she goes, oh, by the way, I'm also going to put 3 hours of Spanish, no less Christian, but Christian Spanish programming in front of you for 3 hours, and then listen to your show. And I'm like, how are we supposed to know who's listening to us? And she goes, oh, I don't know. I can't afford Arbitron rankings or Nelson rankings or anything like that. So, and I'm like, how do we know anyone's listening? So, and then she says, oh, by the way, I'm going to have to start charging you guys. We're like, how much? She goes, $50 a week.
Ouch.
So at first we paid it, and we're like, okay, this is kind of fun. We're on an AM station, and then as we got more into the broadcasting side of the world, we're like, this is not working for us. So we moved on. I literally found Para X, and David was awesome, Dave, and we've been on since, and we love. And so now and it's funny, we start off as an hour, and then I said, well, why don't we do 2 hours? And you were like, oh, can we fill 2 hours with this content? I'm like, yeah, probably. And then I got a harebrained idea earlier this year to say, let's do 3 hours. Can we do 3 hours? And we literally, when we get on, we start chatting, and literally I was like, okay, we're going to talk about this for a minute. And if you heard our show, we're just crazy. We're like 30 minutes later, we're like, we haven't come off the one topic we came off with, So we do a little bit crazy. But being a druid, that's it invites, and definitely, like you said, we have a conflict of theoretical ideas about how things are, and so.
Well, let's because there may be people here who don't know exactly what a druid is. You watch the movies and they all look like scary little Satanist guys, and they're not. So it might be a good time to kind of explain Druidism, and then when you're done explaining that, I'm just kind of interested in how you flipped over from Christian to Druid.
Okay. So a Druid is basically, in its heart, what's funny, because I was thinking about today, I'm like, how am I going to classify this? Because you want to, but it's not easy, because I'm going to step back for a second. The Druids did not write anything down. It was a verbal religion, way of life. They verbally told the people, it was basically a verbal community. It was from the Celtic world. First thing, let's go back. It's European based. Britain, Ireland, Scotland, into the other European countries. I'm Irish, so I kind of have a tendency to kind of stick around that little area. But so Druidism is centered around that area. So what we know of Druids are from texts from the Romans coming up, and then stuff that's been kind of passed down through some writings. Not a whole lot. We're finding out more and more archaeology and stuff like that. So technically, anything that's considered Druid is Neo-Druid. Neo-Druidism, sometimes you hear it called Druidry, Druidism. So you get these slight, and then within that you have all these people go, well, we're going to do it this way. But it's a lot of folk telling. It is an earth-based religion. So we honor our lovely earth. And then within that you have some who believe in multiple gods. Most of them do. I would say 95% of them are polytheistic. I can never say that word right. And then some of them, and then some are monotheistic, which I actually am. Which is ironically, maybe that's a holdover from my Christianity days, having a single. Which I still fight with them because I still think there's 3 gods, but that's a whole other argument there. Actually, 4 if you call Satanism Satan too, but that's a whole other thing. So so within that, within the Druidism, it is a lot male based kind of. You have priests, right? And supposedly you had to study for 20 years before you become a Druid. That's kind of gone away because who's less, and I never could figure that out because if you think about it, they didn't live past more than 40 or 45 300 or 400 years ago. So if you had to study for 20 years, you basically got to your deathbed, then you became a Druid, then you died. So I don't think that.
And I just want to interject that, it is, I guess, basically male-based, but I have a good friend that is actually a Christian Druid.
It's interesting. I was reading, funny you said that because I was reading on that the other day. There's a lot of females. Sometimes we're, like you have, you'll have a cauldron, right? On a cauldron. Why did I say cauldron? Because we're on the cauldron.
Because you're on the cauldron. Yeah.
I was trying to say they were. There's a. What's a group of witches called? A coven. Thank you.
Coven.
Yes. Instead of calling it a coven, we call it a grove, right? So you have a grove, or you have a proto-grove. What a proto-grove is a group that's just getting together. They haven't gone through all this initiation yet. So you'll have proto-groves and groves. And that's like a group of like-minded Druids. And I belong to one up in Tampa. It's about 50 miles away. And so, and then within that, there's certain things like we use ruins. For telling you the different gods and stuff like that for different times of the years, and we do have we do follow a seasonal base ritual outfit, so the circle of the wheel kind of thing. There's all these different holidays. There's the Druid holidays. Pack on more. I mean, you have the Wiccan holidays too, and which I can never pronounce any of those names. I don't know why. I read them. I know but I can never. Pronounce any of them.
Not even Samhain? No?
Samhain I can. Okay, Samhain I can. Okay. But I was like, the one that starts with a B.
Beltane?
Beltane, and then I just never, I'm not good. That's
Lunasa?
I never, nope. Yeah. I see, this is the part of the Druidism that I'm a little lack on. I read lots of books, but as far as me pronouncing these words and stuff like that. So, and we, some Druids, I have a little altar, right? With their, and then you honor your different rituals and different gods. I believe in one spiritual god. I call it my spirit god. Some of them do. So I kind of stick with the one aspect. So I mean, we love oak. Oh yes, believe it or not, I bought an oak because I didn't have any oak trees around my house. So I didn't have to buy one. The arbor people, they were giving away free oak trees. So I got one. So now I have a little oak tree out there, and I'm slowly letting it grow. So eventually I'll have my own little grove outside. So
now, see, I was so remiss at not playing a Dave the Bard song for the opener today, as opposed to Midnight Syndicate Strange. I was going for the title, but now that I just had my V8 moment, how stupid were we not to bring a Druid song. Well, I love Dave, so and he's been on my show several times, and so and we like his music and stuff. So, all right, go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted. Carry on. Oh no, please. Let me tell you, our show, Strange Things Radio, has been called the ADD of radio because we can't keep a single thought together for more than 5 minutes without launching off in something. And like
if you're in a chat room, you can see CC says, yes, the cauldron is full of castleberries. And for those who listen to our show, they'll understand what castleberry means. So,
I've heard your show once, but I never got the castleberry thing. So you want to explain that?
Sure. So one of our lovely listeners sent us 2 cans of castleberry. It's a hot dog. It's a hot dog it's like a chili-based hot dog sauce you put across chili. So she sent it to us, and she's actually in the chat room now. It's Miami, and so she sent it to us, and so now we break out in these crazy songs every time we're talking because we eat food. Oh, we love to eat food too. That's the other thing about our show. We talk about paranormal and food. So we're like castleberries, and we it's a joke running in there because every time we get hungry, we're like, hey, is anyone got any castleberries? And off we go. We literally will open up a can of castleberries and have a hot dog on there. So
it comes in a can?
Yes, and it's only up north. And since I live down here south, we can't get it down here, so people ship it to us.
Yeah, we don't have that kind of stuff for like hot dogs and on the West Coast. We don't, because I know up in New England they have different things, but we don't. We have chili dogs. Yes. That's about it.
We do, but we have a thing called snackage, and so literally we will go out in the show. We're like, I'm hungry, and we'll just literally, hey, you keep talking, I'll go get some snackage, and the show is crazy. We talk about paranormal, we talk about food. It gets crazy. So the chat room people who've been in my show love to throw things at us. So, but back to Druidism. Yes. Now you asked how I got from Christianity to Druidism.
Yeah, it's not a hop, skip, and a jump usually.
No. Yeah. And I would say, my God was patient with me. I think he kept talking to me, and I was deaf until one day I heard him. And this is how I say it. It's very interesting. Where I lived, we had lots of trees. And I always loved trees. And believe it or not, just around the corner from where I lived was a street called there was Druid Hills, and then there's another pagan name, and I can't remember now. But Druid Hills ran right behind our house. We had this big piece of land, lots of trees. And so growing up, Christian just never clicked with me. And then I was must have been a sophomore in high school. Now, remember, I went to a Christian school, and basically their object there was to turn out ministers. That's all they wanted to do. If people don't know, there's a college called it's a Christian school. It's a big one, and I got a scholarship to it. It's called Bob Jones University. So Bob Jones University gave me a 4-year scholarship to go to the school to become a minister because I had done pretty well in the whole thing. But I had questions. In the 10th grade, I kept saying, this doesn't make any sense. This doesn't make any sense. Noah's Ark didn't make any sense to me. How can 2 people start the whole world when and I kept thinking about the whole genetics thing. I'm like, you would have so many genetic issues if you had just 2 people start the world. And stuff like that. And no one didn't answer it. And I said, what about the dinosaurs? What happened? They're like, well, it could have been between day 3 and 4. And I'm like, they were just making up stuff. And I'm like, and so I kept just not clicking with it. But I'm decent in study, and so like I gave ministry. One of our things we had to literally give a sermon. So I gave 3 different sermons to more than 300 kids. That was part of our little program. So I got good at that. But when I got to the 12th grade, I was pretty rebellious. I'm like, no, I'm not doing any of this stuff. And my mom's freaking out because she wants me to take the scholarship and go to this big Christian school and become a minister. And I was like, I just can't see it. So when I graduated, my mom said, well, since you're not going to take it, you can leave.
Nice. Okay.
And my dad wanted me to go to the Army. And the military, I call it the military Army for some reason. All of it seems to be the Army to me. I know it's not, but it's just, and I'm like, no. And he was upset at me about that. Even they were divorced, so that didn't count as much. But so I met my wife, and we moved in and lived in sin. So,
shame.
Yes. So between the 12th grade, 18 and 22, I was devoid of being in religion because when you're a Christian, they say either you're a Christian or you're not, and you're devoid of anything from God, and then and that whole guilt factor.
Yeah, and then you're going to burn in hell too. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I felt very alone in my religious aspects because I didn't know anything about paganism. I never heard of it. We only had Dungeons and Dragons, but they were just fantasy stuff, right? Yeah. And then one day, this is the craziest thing. I walk in, and I used to collect comic books too. I like, when you're a kid, you collect comic books and all that kind of fun stuff. So I go in the shop, they have a comic book store, and wouldn't you know it, in the corner they have this whole, I almost said paranormal, found the word metaphysical. This whole metaphysical side of the store. And I'm like, kind of looking around going, this is cool. Okay, look at little cool crystals. And, oh, look at the little wand. And, and I loved Lord of the Rings, story. I have stories there. And so it was, I don't know, it just, so I'm looking at it and I'm looking at this book. And wouldn't you know it, guess what book it was?
Druidry for Dummies, right?
No. Oh, they didn't make books like that. No, it's the infamous Scott Cunningham, The Solitary Witch.
There you go. Okay.
And I'm like, solitary one? That's interesting. Usually you think witches, you think green hats, and you think, I'm like, cool. And I'm kind of reading through it. I'm like, this is kind of cool. And the guy behind the counter goes, I'll let you have it for half price. Oh, really? And he goes, yeah. And I think, I never really talked to him about paganism, but I'm like, and this is in 1992. So there wasn't the internet. You didn't get to go on the internet and go look up all your favorite books and all that stuff. So I'm like, this is kind of cool. Okay. I read it. I'm like, I can see that. I like, it just started slowly, and it wasn't like dun dun dun, but it was like, that was kind of cool. So then, and then I, went back, and there was another book, and I can't remember what the second book was. I should know, but I don't. And I just slowly started kind of getting into it a little bit. I saw some people talking there, so I was thinking about, and at that point, it really was a Wiccan. That was kind of the path that seemed to be, and then. So, but I still was, so I got a little bit more. But I'm like, man, every time you think Wiccan, you also think witches, but you see females. It is female kind of leaning on that area. And I'm just like, I like that to a degree. I mean, at least I felt that way back then. And so I ended up going to this, what was it? It was some metaphysical, I happened to be up in Philadelphia. I ended up going to this, metaphysical, like, I wouldn't say trade show, but one of the shows. Guess who was there? Isaac Boneswick.
Yeah.
And I started talking to him, and he goes, okay, you really need to look at this. And that's where he showed me Druidism. And I'm like, oh my God, this is it.
What a great introduction, because Isaac was, like one of the elders that everybody respected. Yes. Right. And I even had him on my show once. Imagine that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, see. I would love this. I only got to see him talking that one time. Full of people, everyone was signing his books and stuff like that. But he puts people off for about 5 to 8 minutes with me, which, was a lot of time, especially when you're convincing everyone in the world is trying to get the book signed and pictures taken and all that stuff. So that brought me to Druidism. So it wasn't an automatic thing. It wasn't like, ding, I'm a Druid. But, so, followed path and grew. And so it's been, on this path. And I tell people all the time, it's it's a simple path if you want it to be. It could be as complicated or as simple as as anything. Some Druids I talk to, I mean, they dig deep. They get into the ADF. I belong to ADF. Don't ask me how to pronounce that. I said yet to how to pronounce that thing. I belong to it. I'm a card-carrying member, but I cannot pronounce it. So it's Irish, and so Celtic and stuff like that. It's funny because I went to go study Gaelic. Went to a website, and
God,
I was
that's got to be tough.
Well, I started trying to study it. I said, this would be cool. And, I wanted to learn how to speak it, so I'm listening to these words. And it was a small entrance fee. I said, okay, $25, fine. This is cool. It's kind of like a tape thing, and I'm getting video and I'm getting audio stuff. And this is in 2003, I think. 2003, right up in there. And wouldn't you know it, I have a lot of security clearance, and one of the things kicked back on me, and they came to me and said, what are you doing with the IRA? And what do you mean the IRA? This website was a front for the IRA to get money.
Oh, ouch.
And I'm like, okay. So, and I got to cancel that one. So that was a little
Yeah, that was like in the 50s when Lucille Ball got, the communist take, or anybody with red hair had, red communist. Anyway, go ahead.
Yes.
I digress.
No, you're I have half red hair. My grandparents are actually from Ireland. So,
nice.
And they, and I try to get dual citizenship. It's not that easy.
No,
it is not an easy thing to do. But so that's kind of how I got to Druidism. I wouldn't say I just piles of books. Michael Greer, I don't think I'm saying his right night, has some really good books I like to read lately. He was at one point, I think he was the arts I don't say bishop. I think it is archbishop of not ADF, but one of them. So he's a guy I like to follow. So it's not Judaism. I wouldn't say like any of the paganism umbrella groups. There's no holy text. You can't pick up a Bible and go, well, I want to become a Christian and read this book right here. Right. You just have so many paths and I bring in things. I bring in things from Buddhism and Hinduism, shamanism, stuff from Wiccans and Gerald, and I believe I've been reading, and this is going to throw some people way off the deep end, but stuff from Crowley, his stuff. So it's you just bring in this information, and you're like, can I use this? Is there something impractical in my life? And that's what it is. And I just, that's kind of what.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point of who we are. We're not pounded by dogma. There is no one explanation of any path because we all kind of borrow. I think we're all a little bit eclectic, and
yes.
I think labels, I hate labels. Everybody knows that. Everybody's rolling their eyes every time I say that. But I don't like labels because then certain things are expected of you. But certain things you have to. Okay, witch, druid, blah, blah, blah. But you have to be a free thinker, I think. And this is what being a pagan enables us to do. It doesn't mean that we're not believing in gods. Not means that we're, going to burn in hell. I mean, it's so hard to explain to people in general, but if you turn pagan at some point, and you can probably vouch for this, it changes your whole life and your whole outlook, and you kind of turn into a different person. It just kind of gets in your head in a good way. And all the things that you thought were important before, all the little minutia that you were always complaining about, and this isn't working, blah, 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 it goes away. And that's not to say that we're all tree huggers and everything is love and light, because that is, in the real world, that's not the case. But it's all about respecting nature. It's all nature-based. It's about respecting each other. And that's why I think you and Eric are like the prime example of what we pagans preach as far as tolerance and acceptance is concerned.
Oh, yes. And I have been in different pagan boards, I belong to, and different ones. I've gotten blasted because they get on these, and I will tell you, people get on these, and pagans, I'm going to poke at pagans a little bit here. I'm generally, because they do, and you've seen it, and I know the pagans listen to it, I've seen this, where they get on a Christian rampage. Oh, they didn't do this, and they didn't do this. It's like, yes, we can say that about Muslims. Oh, me and Eric fight about Muslims. We fight about so many things, because the problem is, pagans like to poke at, the Christian bear, if you want to call it, right? And sometimes it's funny, but sometimes I'm like, stop poking. Just, what? They have their belief system. There's one thing I will tell people every day. You cannot prove God. You cannot prove goddesses. You can't prove any of it. Only thing you can prove is your faith and your ability to love and learn in that faith. So, and I tell Eric this all the time. He goes, like today a very, let's see. Most of the people know everything about my life anyway, so what the heck. So today I lost my job.
Jeez.
So I'm at the Lentz. My boss comes in and goes, things haven't been working out right. And I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong. He goes, no, but today's your last day right now. And I'm like, what? So I lost my job, went to lunch with Eric. So Eric then proceeds to say, if you pray to Christ, he's going to, and I'm like, really? You've been praying too, and where are you at? And so I was a little negative today. I apologize to him. But he kept saying, pray, and I'm like, I'm praying. I will be praying to my God a lot later, and so we just come in from a different point of view. And so he's like, aren't you afraid if something happens to you, you're going to go to hell? And I'm like, you can't go somewhere you don't believe. Oh, yes, you can. I'm like, I appreciate you believe in it. And I say, this is where I do get a little. Guy, I said don't poke the Christian bear. I do poke it sometimes. Name Eric, but I just fear one thing about being a pagan. I like the idea of calling myself a pagan because it kind of gives me a broad general. But within that, like I say, hey, I'm a Christian, but I kind of follow the Catholic path or the Lutheran path or the Episcopalian path. You know what I'm saying? They don't call it path; they call it doctrine, which I always thought was interesting because I think path's a whole. There's the part of being a pagan that's interesting.
Yeah, we claim the path, right?
Yeah, or like path. The path is where you walk in the woods. You see the beautiful trees and the animals. It's, and yesterday was my 25th anniversary with my wife, and I wrote a little poem, talking about how, the path is never smooth, but no matter what, I'll be holding your hand to the end. And so, but it's always about a path where they always it's a doctrine. And so, you get, and I think what happens, you kind of mentioned earlier in the show, you talked about the minutia, and they just get so wrapped up in that. It's like, you just got to be free. Like, it just drives people nuts. I don't fear death at all. Because the only thing it would be worrisome is I would not be here long enough for my children. I have 3 kids. I want to see them grow old, have kids. I have 1 grandkids and all that kind of stuff.
All right.
But if God took me home today, I'll be going to Summerland, I will be fine. And that's what I believe, and that's where and Christians are, the whole desert worship. Have you seen that post? And it's been floating around Facebook, and especially if you belong to enough of the pagan sites, you've probably seen it where they say, "This is what Christians think of you, and you're a devil. This is what your friends think of you," and it's a whole bunch
those things of me. Those. And
so I always just find those humors, just because it's absolutely the best part is what we actually do, and just a guy holding a tree. Like that's us. It's just like I know they And people come to me and say, "Oh, do you believe in magic?" And I'm like, "Listen, yes, magic is no different than prayer. It's just how you work it, and then you're just using the energy of the universe." I think Einstein said this. I apologize if it's the wrong person, but you cannot get rid of energy. You can't destroy energy. No. So if you can't destroy energy, then it's got to be able to work. I mean, we are incredible amount of technology in the world. I'm talking to you, you're talking to me, we're broadcasting to all these people. It's great. 200 years ago, we would be doing devil's work right now. So,
I know, yeah. Well, we're still accused of doing that, but hey, at least, now we have an alibi. Yeah, we blame it on technology. Yeah,
blame it on the phone. So.
It's actually true. You can, but yeah, I mean, all right. So here's the thing. I think that. I have nothing against organized religion if it's the right thing for you. I mean, that's pretty much how it works. I don't have a problem with that. But I do have a problem with people that point fingers, and it can be pagans to Christians or Jews, and then back at us. And this is the whole live and let live thing that we can't seem to get through our heads in some cases. Some people it's their way or no way, and
that's fear.
Well, sure it is. And not being educated,
exactly.
That also.
Yeah, and I try to tell Eric this, and then again to recap, Eric is a Southern Christian. He goes to church every Sunday, and he's so indoctrinated in his thoughts that he does have fear. And I say that sometimes. I'm saying, listen, it's just the fear coming out of you. And he's like, it's not fear. I want us to be together when we go to heaven. And I'm like, I will be going to Summerland, and if you want to come with me, or I think the spirits, we will find each other. So with that, he just, his dad died when he was 2, so he always thinks, "Well, my dad a Christian? Is he going to be in hell?" And that's just his fear factor.
They worry about that, yeah. I mean, they worry about getting over to the other side, and did they go to hell? And I mean, I know people that because they've said, not taking God's name in vain so much, not even in a horrible way, but because they did say, "Damn it." They think immediately one damn it's going to send them to hell. And so it's not the organized religion that I don't agree with. It's the living in fear and making people fearful. And that kind of, and I've said this before too, people are going to roll their eyes again, but that's why there's such a horrible onus about pagans in general and witches, because we got a bad rap when Christianity came to pass. Yep. And they did a damn good job because we're still fighting it. So, I mean, that's the only...
Yes, and I will tell you, this is just my personal thing, is when it comes to St. Patrick's Day, I do not honor it. People have listened to me. I get very upset about it.
Okay, you better explain that, because people are not going to understand what you're talking about, but I got it.
So, for those who don't know, St. Patrick was this Catholic who decided he was going to take on Ireland. And what I mean by that, Ireland was the last stronghold in Europe that did not convert to Christianity. It was holding on to its original pagan beliefs. He said, "I'm going to come in there and I'm going to knock out paganism and I want to convert everyone to Christian." And he did. And he just kept pounding on it, and that's where we get some of these merged, stuff as far as my brain would just start. Basically, like Christmas and Easter and stuff like that. He was the one who started it, but he helped blend them, with other people and stuff like that. So I do not honor him. St. Patrick's Day is not to honor him. So I appreciate when
snake part. He drove out the snakes from Ireland, and that was a metaphor for the pagans.
Yes, thank you. I was like, if you didn't say that, I was going to kick in with that one, but you did.
Okay,
yeah, great.
Well, that's supposed to make me giggle, so that's why I. Yeah.
Yes, and I do. So I tell people this: like, please go get drunk, go do debauchery stuff, because that just, to me, getting drunk and doing debauchery stuff on St. Patrick's Day is a good F you to the Catholics. So I get kind of on a high horse on that one. I'm sorry. So
okay.
So I was going to say something. My brain just how you get going. So but Eric and I we what the heck was that noise?
So you argue about snakes and St. Patrick and
everything in religion as far as paganism. Oh, I know where I was going. I thank you for just stopping me for a second. So
very welcome.
You were talking about how the Christians came in, and yes, they had the witch trials and stuff like that. That didn't help. I think, also Hollywood. Hollywood has done a fine job of hurting pagans in the sense that it's created them as this mystical. It's gotten a little better over the years, but really, I mean, especially the horror films from the 50s and 60s. And
with the pentagrams,
you get Anti-Levain when he went and he took the pentagram, slapped the goat on it, and now every devil, every Christian thinks we're all devil people. They're like, look, it's a pentagram, and like it's. And I tried to tell them, and I don't know if you probably know this, but some may not. The pentagram actually used to be, at some point in time, was used as a Christian symbol. And definitely gone away from that, but the symbolism there, it's just Hollywood hasn't helped. In every, I love the TV series Supernatural, love the series, but it seems like every time they want to do something, they whip out the pentagram on there and they put the salt around it, and they're holding the devil and and Lucifer out there in the middle, or Crowley. So again, Hollywood hasn't helped in that aspect.
No, it hasn't.
One of the things I always thought would be cool to do, and I have no idea how to do this, but as a whole, pagans are the first green people. In other words, loving trees. You know what I'm saying? It's, if you look at it, trying to go green, trying to save the planet. Pagans should own that. They should say, hey, when people say, what would Jesus do? They should, anytime someone sees a tree, the first thing they should say is, I wonder what a pagan would do. I just wish, that's just me on another high horse, but they, I just wish that's just the one area that I wish people would think, oh, pagans are nice. They're the green people. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. But I mean, we were the healers. We were the we were the midwives. We were. I
actually had to do. I actually had to get my mom, and I got her to read Scott Cunningham's The Solitary Witch. She read the book.
Good.
Mind you, my mom was going to be a Catholic nun in New York when she was 20. And she decided she wanted kids, so she left. They had a pre-nunnery. I'm not sure how that works. I guess before you become a full-blood nun, you have to go through like some classes and nunnery stuff. And she left. And she came back to Dallas and stuff like that. But she's always been a solid Christian, Catholics for a long time. And then she kind of moved over to Pentecostal. What I think is funny, too, is she actually speaks in tongues. I have yet to figure that one out yet, because she speaks in tongues, which I haven't quite... in certain circles of Christianity, they think that's wrong, and the other ones think that's great. So,
well, sure,
but I actually got her to read it, and she's 83 now, so she's getting a little older in her life. But she kind of sees how it could work. So I think that was a halfway there, because my mom used to think, oh my God, yeah, she was all about devil worship and you go into hell, and she just went nuts. But she's kind of halfway come around now.
Well, that's good, and I think and I think that's one of the reasons that we do these shows.
Marla? Hold on.
What?
Marla? Oh my God!
I'm here.
I don't know what happened. My little volume thing just dropped.
Yeah.
So I couldn't hear you, but I was just...
the devil did it.
It
Hey.
did. It
Yeah.
did. I'm sorry. I'm like, hello. It did.
Well, that's all right. I mean, but the whole thing is that's what we're doing these shows for. We're here to kind of educate or enlighten, and we're not, that's the one thing that pagans have never done is recruit. We don't do that. But it's important, people say, well, if can I ask you a stupid question? Well, no question is stupid if it's an honest question. And the only way people are going to learn is by asking questions or by listening to these shows. And that's the best that we can do. I mean, we're never going to be able to change people's minds about what they are and what they believe in, and we don't have any right to, and of course we don't try. But it's important to have shows like this that people can listen to that are interested in hearing about other cultures, because I mean the worst disease that mankind suffers from is a closed mind. And that's where problems come up. That's where people get all uptight and miserable, and like I said earlier, being pagan changes your outlook on things. It changes your opinion about things. It just makes us calmer. It makes us better people, I think. And yeah, we're green. We're nature based, and that's a good thing. So
I think so too. So that's why I just would like, again, the pentagram is another sticky point with Eric and I, because I have numerous of them. I have a great one that's got it's a necklace. It's got a big oak tree, and in the middle of the oak tree is a pentagram. So,
like the tree of life, almost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And so I always thought, I don't know, and it's interesting because I know a lot of Druids, and some of them don't like, well, no, I won't. They say I won't get around a pentagram. That's for witches. That's for Wiccans. They have, there's a different Druid symbol. It's I never again pronounce it right. Awe. It's a, I know you probably, you've seen it where it's three lines and three little dots. It looks like, and so, and I got a necklace like that, and stuff like that. But the pentagram to me is almost really a universal symbol, no different than the cross. Again,
I call it a pagan Saint Christopher because
it's a good one.
Basically means no harm shall pass, and each point represents earth, air, water, fire, and spirit. I mean, that's simple. How can that be so evil? And I it's always like,
well, it's before. It came out of, again, I think I have this thing about Satanism. I respect the fact that they have their own religion. The anti-Levain, I've done enough study, there's different denominations, if you want, on different paths of Satanism. There's the anti-Levains, which they're really actually atheists. They really don't believe in deity at all. But then you have other ones who truly do. When taking the symbol, reversing it, putting the goat's head, really, I think, damaged to a degree paganism. But it didn't help the Christians jumped on it too. They're like, oh yeah, and and unfortunately, so the negativity, and Eric gets on me about this, he's like, oh, the devil did it. And I said, well, I don't know, less devil, more negative spirit. Because I really don't believe in a devil. So, but there is, I think, negativity, no different than positive, negative, and stuff like that. So, but I think you're absolutely right about converting over or finding your true self in paganism. You're much happier. But anything in life, you're going to have bad days and good days. Today's not a great day for me.
Apparently not, for good reason.
Yeah.
However, I mean, but you're not going to sit there and curse your God. I mean,
Oh, good Lord, no. And that's, I've never, I don't know, I guess, no, I won't. So, I don't think I've ever been mad at a God. Even when I was a Christian, I wasn't mad at God. It's just I didn't understand that path. It didn't fit with me. So, and I'm not saying it just didn't work for me. Well, at the end of the day, when we all die, we'll find out what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
But until then, this makes me happy now. So.
Well, that's the whole point. I mean, you have to do what feels right to you, and I don't like people living in fear. of what may be or what's to come, because, I mean, the earth and nature came before any other religion. We were all pagans at one time. The whole world was pagans. Well, first they were cavemen, and then Neanderthals, but that's besides the point.
Somewhere in there is Bigfoot. I don't know how Bigfoot fits in there.
Well, he's still around. You just have to find him, and then I mean, Bigfoot is alive and well somewhere, and whether he is, this is a whole topic for a whole nother show, but I kind of like to think, because Bigfoot is so elusive, and people say that Bigfoot is alien, and that's why he can kind of poof in and poof out. And then I'm thinking, well, no, maybe he's magical, maybe he's one of our magical creatures. So Bigfoot can be any number of things.
Yes,
but he's not the guy that dresses up in the gorilla costume and runs through the forest. This we know. This
is true. I won't get into that. If you hear my rampage, there's a guy in Texas who Ken Gerhard knows. The show before us was talking about Ken Gerhard. He's a good friend of mine, and but we rampage. But let's see my ADD kicks in. I will start going down that path. I just
and Tim Shaw is in the chat room, and he
yes.
And he says Bigfoot is alive and well in his basement, and I've seen his basement, and I mean over Skype, and I agree. He's got a lot of things in his basement that he really needs to answer for, but now that he doesn't have a show anymore, he can get away with it easier.
See,
just
I heard Tim show, Tim talking to Rebecca. I caught one of her shows from last year, and so I need to get him on my show. I really want Reverend Tim.
Oh, God help you, both of you. I will send a sympathy card to you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but so this actually has been awesome talking. Getting back to, I try to, at least when I'm talking as a guest, I try to keep it, in the realm of what we're talking about before we go off the deep rails. One thing I always wondered this, and maybe you can answer this for me. Where did the cauldron come from? And I mean from history, because it is a symbol. You see a lot in paganism and stuff like that. I have one, ironically, but I don't ever use it for anything. But it's just a cool little thing. But I always wondered where it
back.
came from.
It goes back. I mean, lots of our tools are like mortar and pestle, cauldron. We use them. I mean, they're practical tools. But you can go back to Caradwin's cauldron and the Mabinogion, and the cauldron stood for life. It stood for the womb, and Caradwin's cauldron was very healing. It was kind of like a rebirth kind of cauldron. So it goes way back, so far back into ancient times. And it just
you definitely see the picture, the art. You have some of that art from the 1800s that they sold, and I've seen them with cauldrons and stuff like that. And I knew it went further back. And I just wondering how it how it worked its way into paganism as a object.
Yeah, to time immemorial. But I mean, basically, stirring a cauldron is cooking, and we can make brews, we can make potions, we could do all kinds of things in our cauldrons. And back in the day, I mean, everybody used a big pot over an open fire. They didn't maybe call it a cauldron, but that was it. So it's a practical tool, but, also like our little cauldrons, we have little cauldrons for certain things. And, we have like 2 sets of brooms, one to clean the house and one to sweep out the negativity. And then, we have ritual knives, and then we have knives that we cut food with. So all of our tools are pretty much just practical things for every day, but they all go back, to the beginning of time, because, I guess when they invented iron and steel, somebody said, okay, well, this would be good to cook in. Well, all right, now let's light a fire and see what happens. And then, okay, this is practical. But then, so I think it just goes way, way back when everybody was a pagan, and, first the wheel was invented, and then everything ran from there, I think.
Yes. No, it's funny. I was, you hear a lot about kitchen witches, which actually I read as much because I love cooking. And my wife said, because this new old job, it was taking a lot of time away from me, and I wasn't cooking as much. And my wife goes, "Well, good news is now that you don't have a job, you can cook again."
There you go.
I love cooking, so yes, I have all my knives, and I'll actually watch cooking shows on TV. Like, that's how you do it. I just think that's all.
Make sure you don't stir Deosil when you should be stirring Widdershins. There's all different ways to do this. If you're going to be a kitchen witch, you do it right. But
I guess I read it just to get ideas. I don't know if I follow everything on the path, but I take some things and like, oh, that's a good idea. I could incorporate that and stuff like that.
So kitchen witches basically cook with love, and that goes into their food. And then certain herbs are for certain things. I mean, it's kind of I've been kind of looking at it a little bit, and it's really, really interesting. Kitchen witchery. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yep. So I was
question: do witches use same cauldron for cooking and making potions? No, I wouldn't. That was a question from Cater. I would have separate cauldron for cooking and one for making potions because, I just two. No, you never know what you're cooking in your potions cauldron. So
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So I see this come up numerous times. We gotta love the world of Facebook, right? I don't know. Sometimes I think Facebook is like those tabloids in the old tabloids. I'm like, it's half of it's crap, but some of it's like, oh, that's interesting. But it's but I see every now and then people say, I need a negative spell, and they say I need to spell a hex. That's the word I'm looking for. A hex.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you feel about hexes? Because I don't get into that. As far as I guess I do some magic, but like hexes and stuff, that's not part of my thought process. So,
yeah, basically, me either. I mean, I don't like to dwell on the negativity, but we all kind of start out with the Wicca mentality, and ye harm none, and do as you will, and we're all going to be fluffy bunnies, and everything is bright and sunny. Well, it's not, and so it took a while for me to exactly, kind of think, well, I'm eclectic. I take a little of this, a little of that. And then I was reading about the Grey Witch. And I thought, that kind of suits me a little bit better because we're all human. And sometimes to protect somebody, you need to take a step that you might not take normally.
Yeah, like the 9mm I have on my desk.
Yeah, exactly. So I just don't think we can all just live in peace and harmony because things come up and sometimes you can't, and if it has to do with a loved one or something, you do what you have to do, and it's not saying that I'm going to go out and kill somebody. No, I won't. But it's hexes and curses, I think, are a sticky wicket to play with. They're a necessary evil, and if you take care and you know what you're doing, that's well and good. But just to go out there and say, I am going to be a badass and I'm going to do that's like, go hang yourself now because it's going to come back to you so bad later on. You don't want to stick around for that. So, yeah, I mean, if you can avoid that kind of stuff, it's great. But I think, and here's the other thing. One thing about hexes and curses, you don't even have to do them to scare people. See, and this is the beauty of it, but in a bad way. Because if you tell somebody that you've put a curse, and they know you're a witch or a druid or whatever, if you tell somebody you've put a curse on them, they're going to make it happen themselves. They're going to be so afraid that they're going to create this thought form or whatever else, and just scare the bejesus out of themselves on that.
Themselves, yeah. That's a good point. It's the actual that's the fear, not the fear itself. No. So,
yeah.
I wonder if anyone's ever tried to do a hex and it's come back on them with the whole threefold thing.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it has. And, I mean, that's not necessarily to scare. It's just that, what you put out is what you get back. Life's the echo. And so, just be careful of what you do. And it's not that it's not a threat. It's just try not to do as many negative things because it will, it'll come back over your head. Now, you have, let's just say that you have a 3-hour show every week. Yeah. And you and Eric. So this hour must have been like, a blink of an eye because it's almost gone.
I glanced, I'm like, oh, okay, we're going to take a break here and we'll another round.
And then we're back for the next 2 hours. Yeah, we could do that, but Lily would kill me. So before we have to dance out of here, I think everybody should know when, again, and where they can find your show. Also, your website information, because if I'm not mistaken, aside from there being neat stuff on the website in general, they can find your archived shows there. So... We just changed today. One of our listeners changed it. But StrangeThingsRadio.com is our website. So, yes, we will be having archives up there. Also, if you send host@StrangeThings.com is my email address. If you send me an email, I'll send you whatever show you want. Or if you just want the whole, I'll give you access to my Dropbox. A lot of people have that. They can just go through all the shows if they want to do it that way. My show is Friday nights from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are live every week. As much I think we've only taken 3 breaks in the whole year. But yes, Strange Things Radio. We talk about everything weird and strange. We've hit everything. If you can, it's funny because this week we're like, hey, we're gonna do a show this week, okay? And we're like, Eric was saying, is there a topic we haven't hit? And we're literally going down the road. Okay. Ghosts, Bigfoot, UFOs. Those are we joke around with. Those are like the top car makers: Ford, GM, Chrysler. So we hit those big 3 all the time. So what we haven't hit, and then we'll sometimes sub that, and then I'm trying to get a guy on the show, but he's getting too popular right now. I don't know if you've seen the video yet, but there's a video out there. A guy was going to take his kids to a park. And there's a swing, this big kind of swing. It's violently swinging, and there's no wind. The ones next to it are not moving. There's trees there. The trees aren't moving. And he's like, oh, my. And he's got his kids with me, and the kids are like, Dad, it's moving. I mean, it's not just rocking a little bit. It's violent. Like, literally someone's there, but it's doing it off his phone. So we're like, that would be so cool to get him on the air. But very cool. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not sure what we're going to talk about tomorrow night, honestly.
All right.
Put all the pieces together. But it is Friday nights, 10 to 1 a.m. here on ParaX Radio, Eastern Standard Time.
Well, thank you for joining me tonight and popping in for a visit. And I think now you've got a bunch more people that are going to come over to visit your show.
I hope so. And would you mind coming on our show?
No, not a bit.
Awesome. And I know you probably can't do 3 hours, but whatever.
I'm a trooper. I'll run with it,
Really? Oh, there's that.
Yeah, and if you really want to commit suicide, you could have Tim and I on together. And then the 2 of us against the 2 of you. God help everybody, and God has helped everybody, but we've done it before. So anyway, that's food for thought for you. We got to get the heck out of Dodge, so thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, James, and until next time, everybody, blessed be, and merry meet again. Good night.
This has been another edition of Stirring the Cauldron with Marla Brooks. Be sure to tune in next week at this same time for another great guest and more cauldron stirring. Any rebroadcast or other use of this program without explicit permission is strictly prohibited. Copyright 2014. Moonlight Hall by Kevin MacLeod, licensed through Incompetech.com.